Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on YouTube, Diggy546? Definitely hit that subscribe button if you're new. Like the video if you like the video. And I won't tell if you click that bell. But let's go ahead and get into this. So I wanted to make this video because I saw this and I just thought it was interesting. ESPN ranked the Giants offensive line as the 32nd ranked offensive line. I'll read a little bit of what they had to say. They ranked Andrew Thomas as the 56th guy. 56 offensive lineman. Shane Lemieux is the 69th offensive lineman. Nick Gates is 34th. Hernandez is 31st. And Matt Parrott didn't qualify because I guess he didn't play enough snaps. He played like 15% or 12% of the snaps. But just to read what they had. So their explanation was, so much for General Manager Dave Gettleman's grand plan for the offensive line. The rookie Thomas performed well according to our run blocking metric, but he was a liability as a pass protector, though he did battle an ankle injury that required surgery after the season, which is strange, but you know, that they acknowledge that. But you know, let's keep moving on. And what could be a make or break season for Daniel Jones? Gettleman got him more receiving help, but Jones is going to be on the run behind this offensive line. That explanation is kind of something that could sort of make sense. I mean, they didn't really say anything that was egregious there. But to go back to the Andrew Thomas thing, I'm not going to go into whatever rankings they did because I don't know how they rank these players. I don't know how they did it. But I don't know how they ranked it. But anyway, going back to what I see here, and I don't know if this is, I'm pretty sure maybe 56 is 56 tackle when they say Andrew Thomas, because if they're saying overall offensive lineman, who knows? But at the end of the day, saying that the Giants offensive line is 32nd in the league out of all 32 teams, I mean, this is coming from someone who's a Joe Burrow fan and wanted the Bengals to take Jamar Chase for that whole reunion up there. And, you know, people were saying that Joe Burrow isn't going to be able to throw the ball because he's going to have so much pressure in his face. And I don't know where they rank that offensive line. But to say that we're the worst offensive line in the league, I think is a stretch. I think is a stretch, you know, as far as pass blocking goes. And the thing is, I'm going to just say this. You cannot have it both ways. You got to pick a side. You have to pick a side. You cannot say that Daniel Jones needs to step up and this is a make or break year for him and this is a prove it year and he has to get it done because, you know, Dave Gettleman has set him up with everything perfect and Jason Garrett is some great Hall of Fame offensive coordinator. And then in the same sentence, turn around and say that he has the worst pass blocking line in the NFL. Anybody that says that clearly did not watch football last year. Because if you watch Giants football last year, what you see first of all is an offensive line that started off pretty bad. Started off not being able to run the football at all. Ended up turning that run game into a strength they turned that run game into a strength for the Giants. And they were able to run block at a pretty high level, but this one is evaluating pass blocking. My thing is, once you switch it over and once you think about the pass blocking, Andrew Thomas started off horrible as a pass blocker. Started off horrible. But at the end of the day, he ended up giving up 10 sacks as a rookie. But at the end of the day, he got better and better as the season went along. And even at the beginning of the season, Andrew Thomas gave up sacks. Yeah, he gave up pressures. But there was a lot of times where Daniel Jones dropped back. He had 3, 4, 5 seconds and no receivers were open. No receivers could get off the press. I mean, the entire receiving corps across the board got pressed up at the line of scrimmage and no one could get open. So we have to really look at these things critically because is that an offensive line's fault if they give 5 seconds and the quarterback gets sacked? Or is that the receiver's fault? Or is it the quarterback's fault for not processing? Is it the offensive coordinator's fault for not drawing up a better play that could get those receivers open? I don't know, but I'm not going to blame that all on the offensive line. I saw plenty of times where we had plenty of time to throw the football, to be functional, and I think that this offensive line will be functional. My only question mark Only question mark is, well, I'll say two question marks, is left guard and right tackle. If our left guard is horrible and our right tackle is just average, we'll be okay. I promise we'll be okay with a middle of the pack right tackle, or just an average right tackle. And every offensive line has one of those guys. I mean, most offensive lines have one of those guys where he's just a bad player on the offensive line. And the strength about that is, whatever we lose from Shane Lemieux blocking in the pass game, we're going to gain from him blocking in the run game. Very good in the run game, very mobile as a run blocker. And I think that he'll make up for that. Whatever he loses in the pass game, he'll make up for in the run game. And if you want to have any position that is questionable on the offensive line, you'll want it at guard. Center is very important. Center, they have to make all the line calls. They have to establish the depth of the pocket, which the guards do too. But the centers really have to make sure that they are, establishing that the front of the quarterback is clean. Left tackle, most important position. Got to protect the blind side, especially with Daniel Jones. He has a history of his blind side not being protected, and him, keeping his eyes downfield and fumbling the ball because someone's coming behind him and he can't see it. So that's the most important position. Andrew Thomas, I fully expect to continue the trajectory that he was going on in that second half of last season. I fully expect that to continue. I expect him to get better. Even if he doesn't, I still expect this line as a whole to be functional. And then right tackle. Right tackle is definitely a concern. Cam Fleming got destroyed last year in Arizona. But if you look at, the entire offensive line pretty much was getting destroyed. And on top of that, they were sending, eight guys sometimes against us. Against Arizona, against Baltimore, they were sending 8 or 9 guys against us. And that's pretty much what we need to get away from. Sometimes your offensive line isn't able to pick up certain blitzes that we won't have to deal with next year. We won't have to deal with them sending 8 or 9 people at us, because we'll have Kenny Galladay on the outside. We'll have Kyle Rudolph there, who can actually, run a stick and nod and turn around and catch the ball, and it can actually be a high read for us. Think about how many times they sent blitzes at us, or there was immediate pressure, and there was nowhere for Daniel Jones to go with the ball. I mean, we hardly checked the ball down. There were usually never any hot reads for Daniel Jones to be able to say, hey, I need to get the ball out quickly to this guy, because they were either getting pressed up, or the plays were too far down the field, or there were a ton of variables. But one thing I'm going to say is ESPN has definitely missed the mark. I've kind of been pivoting to another topic just about how I think the offensive line will play this year. But just as far as the rankings, there is no way that this offensive line is the worst in the league. You have, again, the Bengals are going to have to deal with some growing pains. Riley Reef has not been good for a while. They're going to have to roll him out. Jackson Carman is a guy who's a projection. They're dealing with some issues down there. The Giants' offensive line is not the worst pass blocking offensive line in the league. And I'm just going to say this. If you believe that the Giants' offensive line is the worst pass blocking line in the entirety of the NFL, don't blame Daniel Jones. Do not blame Daniel Jones if we have the worst offensive line in the league. I just don't want to see it, because it doesn't make any sense. So I think pretty much the moral of the story here is pick a side and stay on it. So if the offensive line is this horrible, then it's not Daniel Jones' fault. If the offensive line is functional, which I believe it is, then you can kind of shift some of the blame to him. And look at how the receivers are performing too. But ESPN, I think, has dropped the ball with this ranking. I don't know how they rank this. I don't have a subscription. They usually want people to have subscriptions. So I don't see who's ranked like right underneath them, or how closely ranked they are to them. But I just don't think the Giants' offensive line is 32nd in the NFL when it comes to pass blocking, because I saw way too many times where Daniel Jones had enough time to scan the field, go through his reads, and sometimes people just weren't open. So you guys tell me what you think. Do you think the Giants' offensive line is 32nd in the entire league? You let me know. If you made it this deep into the video, come on, just hit the subscribe button. I make Giants content primarily, draft content secondarily, and during the season, I'm going to be doing a lot of reacting to pretty much most of the NFL games and everything NFL. So if you made it this deep, go ahead and join the D6 squad.